are the infamous pair of hubby's least favourite vegetables. In fact, he absolutely detests pumpkin. Not a huge fan of zucchini, but a couple of tricks for getting unpopular vegetables into other things so that we can still have a nice variety of vegetables in our diet, but we don't have to have the texture or the flavour of the things that we're not a huge fan of plonked on our plates. So let's do a little bit of magic and turn these villainous veggies into something completely scrumptious that even the fussiest person will eat. Okay, we are going to start with our humble little zucchini here, and I'm going to turn this zucchini, which is quite large, I'd say this is a large zucchini compared to the size of my hand, so I'm going to make 2 zucchini loaves out of this. Our loaf recipe is pretty basic. We're going to need about 1 cup of grated zucchini, self-raising flour. I'm going to use some applesauce. This will be a bit of a sweetener, but also replaces the egg. I've got some vanilla essence, some milk. I'm using soy milk. I have some flaxseed as well, which I'm also going to add. So the flaxseed and the applesauce act like an egg replacer. You can use one or the other or both. In this, I'm going to use both. The applesauce also adds a little bit more moisture, so we don't have to worry about adding oil or anything like that. And then I'm going to go 2 ways with this. So I'm going to go the traditional, which is going to be flavored with some cinnamon. I'm going to throw in some walnuts, and I'm going to add in some chopped up dates. And again, so the dates is going to add a little bit more sweetness. You could add sultanas if you had sultanas on hand as well. I don't, so we're going to use the dates. That's loaf number 1, and then loaf number 2, we're going chocolate. So I will omit these 3 ingredients over here. And for our second loaf, I'm going to add some cocoa powder, some maple syrup. I don't have a lot. There's probably a tablespoon in there. 2 tablespoons would be good, but I don't have that, so it'll be fine. And we're going to throw in some leftover chocolate chips as well. There's probably half a cup of chocolate chips there. So that is going to be our zucchini loaf 2 ways. All right, to get started with this one, we are going to grate our zucchini. Now, I personally don't wring the zucchini out. I just grate it and then I cook with it. This one was quite a large zucchini like I showed you, so I'm just going to separate this basically in half. I had a quick look, and half of this zucchini is pretty much a cup of loose packed zucchini shred, which is what we want for each of our loaves. So I'm going to put half aside, and we'll get started on our first zucchini loaf, which is going to be the one with the cinnamon and the walnuts. So I'm going to start by making a flax egg, and I'm just going to grind up some flax seeds in our little blender that we've got here, a tablespoon of flax seeds, and 1/4 of a cup of water. Mix those together and let them sit for about 5 minutes, and that's what gives you a flax egg. Now I'm going to start combining all of my wet ingredients together. I've already got the zucchini shred in there. This is 1/4 of a cup of applesauce, and I'm also going to add 1/3 of a cup of soy milk. Now you could use whatever milk you normally have at home. We just use soy milk, so that's what I've got here, but it'll be perfectly fine with any other type of milk. And we're going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla essence. I'm going to mix all of our wet ingredients together in the bowl first, basically because I'm just trying to minimize the amount of dishes that I'm using cooking in the kitchen. So if I can do it all in one bowl, then that sounds like a good idea to me. I don't have a lot of bench space and it saves on washing up. I'm also going to mix in our flax egg, and then I can let all of our wet ingredients sit to the side while I start prepping all of our flavoring ingredients. So for our first zucchini loaf, I'm going to do a walnut and date loaf. So I'm chopping up half a cup of walnuts and about half a cup of dates, just so that they're diced up. It doesn't have to be a perfect measurement, but about half a cup before they're chopped up. Just getting those ready to go in before I start adding in my dry ingredients. So I'm going to want a cup and a half of self-raising flour. Now I'm also going to add in 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. If you wanted to use plain flour, you'll need to add some baking soda as well, just so that you've got some rise. I prefer to cook with self-raising flour because it just makes life a little bit easier. Now this is going to need a good mix together, and it will be quite a thick batter, but you just want to combine in your dry ingredients into your wet ingredients until they're just combined. We don't want to over mix it, but it is going to take a little bit to get those mixed through. But once they are combined, we'll go ahead and add in our diced walnuts and our chopped up dates, and we'll just give that one more quick mix. We don't want to over mix it, but just until they're just mixed through, and we'll go ahead and get those into a pan. Now for our second zucchini loaf, I've already got our wet ingredients ready. This is up until the flaxseed, and I'm going to go ahead and add in our flour. Again, this is a cup and a half of flour, but this time we're going with a chocolate theme. So I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. This is unsweetened cocoa powder, and I'm going to mix those through. These are our wet ingredients into our dry ingredients. Once they're combined, just like I added in the walnuts and the dates, I'm going to go ahead and mix in our maple syrup and some chocolate chips. Now I would have preferred to have had 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, but I didn't, so I just tipped in whatever was left in the bottle and our remaining chocolate chips, which happen to be half a cup. Very, very lucky. Once again, I just want to gently mix these until they are just combined. I don't want to overwork our batter, but just mixing everything through. And then I will pour these into some loaf tins. So I prefer to line my loaf tins with a little bit of baking paper. If you want to just spray it with some oil or rub it with some butter, you go ahead and prepare your pans however you like them. This is just how I like to do it. And I'm going to bake them in an oven at about 180 degrees for about 35 to 40 minutes. Now that is in my caravan oven, which can be a little bit temperamental. So my best advice to you is to put it on for 30 minutes, check and see how they're going. If they need an extra 5 or an extra 10 minutes, you can determine that until they come out looking deliciously cooked on top, nice and golden brown, but also stick a cake tester in them and make sure that they come out clean. That means that they're cooked all the way through. But have a look at this. This is our walnut and date zucchini slice. It looks absolutely fantastic. No, I don't wring out my zucchini. I just grate it and put it in. But I find that it doesn't make these loaves too moist or too wet. It's just a perfect combination with the zucchini grated the way that it is and the amount of dry and wet materials that we put in here, that it comes out perfect, looking like this. Absolutely delicious. Now with the dates in this one, it is quite a sweet loaf. It's surprisingly sweet, but we really enjoy this one just with a little bit of butter. And our chocolate one is pretty sensational just the way that it is. So it does have quite a bit of chocolate going on. Those chocolate chips add a really delicious element to it, and it's almost like a dessert loaf, I think, at our place anyways. You could definitely dish this one up as dessert and everyone would be really quite happy. It would probably go delicious with a little bit of ice cream as well. This is really nice, warm out of the oven. You could warm it up when you go to serve it just by popping it in the microwave really quickly, but it's really nice cold as well. I do store all of my baked goods in the fridge just so that they last a little bit longer, but this will freeze really well as well, so you can prep in advance. Next up, we're going to use our pumpkin, which I have just boiled and mashed and then cooled in the fridge. I think there's 2 cups here, so we're going to do 2 separate recipes with this, 2 different ones. And we're going to start off by doing some breakfast pumpkin cookies. So for this recipe, I'm going to need some self-raising flour and some oats. In this one, I'm actually using rolled oats, but you could use quick oats if that's all you've got. And I've done that quite a few times in the past and it turns out just fine. I'm going to use some chia seeds in this one as a replacement for an egg. You could use the flaxseed or the chia seeds. They're sort of interchangeable depending on what you've got on hand. So for flavorings, I am going to add some brown sugar, some cinnamon, some vanilla, and I'm going to throw in some pitted dates, and I'm going to top it off with some more chocolate chips. Now I am completely out of the chocolate chips, but I'm just going to use these cacao nibs in this recipe. Oh, and of course the pumpkin. So that's it. Oh, and just a little bit of extra baking soda in this one. I know I am using self-raising. If you are using just plain, then you'll need to add a little bit of baking powder as well, but I'm using self-raising, so I'm just going to add a little bit of extra baking soda to these ones. So let's get to it. For this one, we're going to start off by getting our chia seed egg ready. I will need 1 tablespoon of chia seeds and 1/4 of a cup of water. I'm going to mix those together until they're well combined, and I'm going to sit that aside for 5 minutes so those little chia seeds can soak up some of the water and turn into a bit of a gel. For the pumpkin, I need 1 cup of pumpkin puree or mashed pumpkin, which is about half of our little container here. I will set the other half aside for another recipe. And I'm going to add in 1/2 cup of brown sugar. I'm also going to add in 1 teaspoon of vanilla essence and mix these ingredients together for our wet ingredients. This recipe, I am actually doing this in a separate bowl, but if I could just mix it together in one bowl, I would. Alright, in a separate bowl, we're going to get our dry ingredients ready. So I need 1 cup of self-raising flour. Again, if you would like to use plain flour, you will need to add some baking powder to make your cookies rise. And I'm adding in 1 cup of rolled oats. Because I'm using a combination of flour and oats, I am adding in 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda just so I can get some nice rise in our cookies and they're going to end up nice and fluffy. And I'm adding in 1 teaspoon of cinnamon and 1/4 of a cup of chocolate chips. I was completely out of chocolate chips, so I'm actually using cacao nibs in this recipe and it turned out really well. So at this point I want to mix all of our dry ingredients together so that they're well combined, and I'm going to dice up and mix through about 12 dates. They're going to add some more sweetness to this dish, but also some extra fiber, and it's just a really nice textural element to have some of the chewy rolled oats. We've got some of the crunchy chocolate chips in there, and then we've got the dates as well, which is really nice. Once all of that's mixed together, I'm going to add in our wet ingredients and our quite gooey chia seed egg that you can see now has turned into a bit of a gel now that the seeds have absorbed the water. And we're going to just mix these through together. Again, this will be quite a thick batter. It is a cookie batter, so it will take a little bit to mix that through, but you want it to sort of hold together nicely. It shouldn't be too runny. It should be sort of nice and hold together. On a cookie sheet, space out your cookies. I like to make them fairly big. They don't spread a lot, so you can make your cookies a fairly large size, but they're going to cook nice and puffy and sort of be quite pillowy. I'm going to bake them in an oven for about 15 minutes at 180 degrees, and you're going to get these delightfully soft and fluffy pumpkin breakfast cookies that are like little pillows full of deliciousness. So these were a really big hit. These are really good. You can pop them in the freezer. They freeze really well, so if you wanted to batch prep these and have them for lunch boxes or quick breakfasts on the go, these are a great option. But have a look at how soft and fluffy these are inside. They're a cross between like a muffin and a cookie. Absolutely fantastic. And last of all, to use up my other cup of our pureed pumpkin, I'm just going to do some pumpkin and oat muffins. Really quick and easy, minimal ingredients. All I need for this one is some pumpkin. There's 1 cup there. I've got some rolled oats that I'm going to use. Again, you could use quick oats if that's what you've got. Self-raising flour, a little bit of milk. I'm using soy milk, some cinnamon, and some maple syrup, and that's it. So we're going to begin by mixing all of our wet ingredients together. I'm just doing this in our pumpkin container that I had my pumpkin in the fridge in. So I'm going to begin with 1 cup of mashed pumpkin or pumpkin puree, 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, and 1 cup of milk. Again, I'm using soy milk, but you could use any milk in this recipe. Whatever it is that you normally use at home will be absolutely fine. I'm going to give this all a good mix so it's well combined together, and we'll set this aside while I go ahead and get the dry ingredients ready. So in a separate bowl, I'm going to want to add 1.5 cups of self-raising flour. Again, if you'd like to use plain, don't forget you'll need to add some baking powder to make it rise, and 1 cup of oats. I really do like adding oats to our baked goods. It adds a nice texture, but it also adds some more low GI fiber, and oats are just really good for you. I've also added in there 1 teaspoon of cinnamon and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Again, that's because I have added in the oats and we want to make sure that everything rises really nicely. Once I've mixed my dry ingredients together, I'm going to combine the wet and the dry ingredients until we've got a nice batter, and that's pretty much it. These muffins are really, really easy. I like to cook them in silicone muffin trays, just makes life a little bit easier. And this is about 1/4 cup that I'm just spooning into each of our little muffin trays. Just split it evenly. This makes 12 really nicely sized cupcake muffins, not your really big Texas style muffins, but your small cupcake sized ones. It'll make 12 of those. It'll make 6 of the really big ones. I like to top it with a little bit of brown sugar, but that is totally optional. And again, we're going to cook this in an oven at 180 degrees for about 20 to 25 minutes until they are cooked through. So again, check with your oven at home and see how long they're going to need. Could be 20 minutes, could be 25. I've got all 12 cooking at once, so I do find it takes a little bit longer. But have a look at these soft and fluffy, delicious muffins, and honestly, nobody would know that they are loaded with veggies. So let's put this stuff to the test. What do you think?
That's the best one. That's the chocolate one.
The chocolate one?
That one's really good.
Which one's that one? I don't know. You don't know. What's in them?
Oh. Stuff.
Stuff.
What have you made?
Just try it. Alright, what's the verdict?
Good. I like it.
You like that one? Mm-hmm.
Oh, you got it.
Alright, so for our friends at home who don't know you, how do you feel about pumpkin and zucchini?
I can't say that on here. It's not good.
Not a fan?
No.
What did you think of the 2 loaves that I made, the muffins and the cookies?
Yeah, not too bad.
Really? What did you really think?
They weren't bad.
Yep, happy to eat them?
It's not my favouriteest thing, but I'll eat them.
Oh, really?
No, they were pretty good.
Now nobody knows what to think.
No, they were alright. They were pretty good.
Yeah.
I definitely ate those.
Definitely eat those. There you go.
Yeah. The muffins were really good. I quite enjoyed those. But I mean, you did follow me up with the chocolate bread, so you know. Yeah, probably should have saved the chocolate bread for last.
Yeah, I started you with the chocolate bread. That was a mistake, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Need to reverse it, go back again. Start again. And swap them around. Do the cookies and the muffin first. Then do the chocolate bread.
There you go. From the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
Don't like pumpkin and zucchini, but you'll eat those.
Yeah. It doesn't taste anything like pumpkin. Couldn't even taste zucchini, to be honest. So, pretty good.
Sneaky veggies.
Yeah. But you do it again, and there's trouble.